Hey guys, sorry to disappoint you yet again, but we are still not going to play a single note until we learn how to hold the sticks and have a consistent setup behind the drum. What do I mean by setup? Essentially, it's the way your shoulders, arms, and wrists relax behind the drum and what you should really be looking out for. A solid grip and consistent setup will be a major catalyst in retaining muscle memory behind the drum, which will not only make you a great visual performer, but a great snare drummer. If your setup behind the drum is always a variable, then we will never be able to get good consistent sounds out of the drum due to the different ways that the stick will be hitting the drum. Example. Big difference. Hear that? So to get started, the right hand is in a standard match grip position, which pretty much means using the T grip. I'll give you a view from the top and from here, and a close-up. And then you'll just wrap your fingers around. So going from the T to wrapping your fingers around. T, wrapping, and I'll even show you the close-up again. After you do that, make sure there is no tension in your hand. I would rather you be wobbly like this than do this and choke all the life out of the stick. You want to make sure that as a percussive instrument, the snare drum can sing through the rebound of the stick and the relaxed weight behind it. Now that we're holding the stick the right way, let's talk about our hand positioning. Some tips for a good right hand is to remember that the top of your hand will always be perpendicular to the ceiling. And unless you have funky ceilings, it should just be flat, and that helps me keep a consistent grip. Once you do that, make sure your bead is over the center of the drum, and you're still relaxed. You're relaxed the entire time. A good pointer for this also is keeping 2 fingers off the rim of the drum, and then angling the stick down from there. This provides you with a really good parameter as to the angle and where to get the optimal amount of bead to drum contact. This doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is when you get this, again, versus this. Big deal. So make sure that you're always reminding yourself about the 2 fingers to get that consistent, good sounding angle. Even if everybody's fingers are different, it'll generally be about the same. Making sure you check all of these things off your list will provide you with an optimal environment to get a nice up and down motion. Right? That's what you're gonna want, up and down. You don't want any kind of slicing of any kind, right? We always want up and down, straight up and down. This is the optimal motion to playing on this particular type of drum because you are consistently creating the same motion, which allows you to consistently create the same sound. So let's revise our checklist really quickly. We got the T grip, right? Then we put it in the crevice of our hand to make sure that it's straight in there. We wrap our fingers around, just like that, still relaxed. Place the bead in the center of the drum, and make sure that you have these 2 fingers to get that sweet angle. Lastly, your wrist is perpendicular to the ceiling, so you get that nice straight motion when you turn your wrist. The last thing about holding the stick in your right hand is that you will fundamentally want about 1 inch of space. This varies from program to program, so I don't want to give any definitive information, but generally from what I have taught and been taught, this provides a very good balance point in your hand for you to optimally bring the stick up and down. If you hold it up here, you'll choke off the sound and it will not sound good unless you put a lot more effort in. We want to get the most return for our investment into playing the instrument, so make sure that's always a thing. So the left hand is where it gets a little more complicated. You're going to want to place the stick between your thumb and your pointer, and it's going to be about 1.5 inches from the back, so a little more than it was on your right hand. This is as a result of the different grip in the left hand and finding that perfect balance point in the left hand with the grip we're going to use, which is traditional. Next, we're going to form the T grip by placing our pointer finger on the stick and putting our thumb over that pointer finger. You're going to want to aim for the first knuckle, and I'll get you a close-up so you can really see. But you're going to want to aim for that. And that is going to be your fulcrum. A lot of what you're going to play is going to come from that part of your grip. Next, we're going to want to keep our T grip and just add the next finger very relaxed next to our first pointer finger. So our middle finger and our pointer finger are over the top. And lastly, you're just gonna put these two guys down here, and they're gonna nest the stick very calmly still. Ideally, you're gonna wanna condense your hand to give yourself a little more of a consistent grip, but not to the point where it starts messing with the tension in your hand. We always wanna be relaxed regardless. Because it won't matter if your hand looks good, but sounds bad. We want our hands to look good and our sound to be good. So here we go. Now if you're looking from the overhead angle, we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna put the bead in the center, and we're gonna use the 2-finger method to make sure we get the fat part of the bead. Again, this will provide us with the biggest return on our investment. Now that we have the 2 fingers and the bead in the center, I'm gonna give you some pointers for the left hand specifically. Even though it varies from program to program and culture to culture, traditionally this is what traditional grip is gonna look like. As a new player, you're gonna wanna aim for the same idea with the right hand being perpendicular to the ceiling, with your thumb facing the ceiling completely straight up. I'm sure you can see it in the overhead camera, but I'll provide you a close-up anyway. This will allow you to consistently go for the stick motion and allow that flat thumb to push the stick down through your fulcrum, through the drum, and you'll get that nice fat sound. That's what you're gonna wanna aim for every time. Checking all these things off your left hand checklist will assure that you're set up for success before you even start playing. So again, let's go over it really quickly. Stick between the thumb and the pointer, about an inch and a half off. T-grip, middle finger touching pointer finger, and caressing the bottom of the stick with the bottom fingers. Having the bead in the center, 2 fingers off the rim, and thumb flat up. You're gonna wanna always go, again, for this straight up and down motion. Always wanna rotate, rotate, rotate. You never wanna just come up from the arm or the elbow, right here. And you gotta make sure that when you're playing, you don't come up and then ruin the 2 fingers, right? Always try to aim for this. Not afraid, because I'm consistent. And I got that way by always putting the 2 fingers here and muscle memorizing what it feels like to have my stick local to the drum. Now that we know how to hold both sticks together, we're gonna see what it looks like together. And what you should be getting is a 90-degree angle about. Whatever your program asks for, it's fine. You'll just have to adjust to it slightly. But if you follow the fundamental rules and check off those things off the checklist, you'll be fine. The important thing is that you stay relaxed and you don't put tension in your grip. Because then, regardless of what your angle is, when you come into auditions, you'll sound good and you'll have a chance to improve on that. I know I sound like a broken record, but this will 100% set you up for success before even playing on the drum. The reason why I'm giving a speech about all this stuff is because it is a lot more important than many people give it credit for. Without deeply rooted fundamentals, there is no real way to improve past a certain point of you just being able to play something, but not be able to play it with the quality that other people are playing it with. If you really want to set yourself up for the future in terms of auditions or college or any of that, even if you just want to sound good on snare drum, you have to make sure that this is a priority and you don't just grip the sticks however you want when you're hacking or kecking or having fun. Even when you're having fun and just drumming or just chilling out on the couch playing some drums, make sure that your grip is consistent and you're always staying relaxed, because if you don't do that while doing those things, then you're gonna be practicing a bad habit and you're gonna get good at having a bad sound, which is something you really don't want. Now, as any snare drummer will tell you, old or even new, the left hand is gonna be a work in progress. All the way until you get very good at drums, and if you march your dream drum corps, this will always be something you're striving to improve. Not to say that you're not gonna improve your right hand, but your left hand is very fundamentally at a disadvantage. Let me explain. Comparatively, there is more of your body on the stick in your right hand. This allows you more control as a result of you having more of your hand on the stick. The more control you have over your stick, the more control you'll have over your sound and your consistency. Now, when we look at the left hand, there is clearly not as much of your hand on it as there is on your right. So you are already fundamentally at a sound and consistency disadvantage. That is one of the big reasons why playing with the left hand in traditional grip is so much harder than playing with the match grip. Another fundamental disadvantage a lot of people don't take into consideration is that most people are right-handed. So not only do you have less of your hand on the left stick, it is probably your less dominant, less developed hand. So now we have two disadvantages that we know of that we have to really work against in our left hand. And lastly, the left hand has to turn in a way that you probably don't ever really turn it except when you're opening a doorknob. I used to walk around high school just going like this to practice turning my left hand because I just was so bad with it and I wanted to get so good. And now it looks a little weird, but I can turn it. I wondered all my life as a snare drummer why it was so hard to just play with the left hand until I just sat down one day and thought about it the way I think about a lot of things, and very analytically and logically, and it's like, yeah, of course this is harder, right? Because I have all these disadvantages in a hand that I already don't dominantly use. So if you're ever feeling down about your left hand not really working the way you wanted to work, or looking the way you wanted to look, or sounding the way you wanted to sound, just remember that it is hard. It is very hard. Whenever you're feeling bad about it, just work on your fundamentals, and I assure you in time, your left hand will get to where you want it to get. You just gotta keep on grinding. So now that we have the knowledge behind holding the sticks, we're gonna combine that with our knowledge about posture from the last lesson. So to start, we face forward, chin slightly up, neck straight, shoulders relaxed, arms at our sides, hips behind the drum, feet under your hips, and we combine that with what we just learned, which is beads in the center, 2 fingers off the rim, wrist facing up. Once you have all that, we are now ready to play. Some things to look out for once you check everything off your list is not having a chicken wing of sorts, which will cause tension in not only your shoulder, but your elbow. Having that nice and relaxed at your side, not too much space between your body and your elbow. Same with your left hand. Generally, if you follow these steps, you will have a great consistent setup that will allow you to be the best snare drummer you can be before even hitting the drum. And if some of these tips don't work for you because of how much taller you might be than me or how much longer your arms might be, then you can adjust within a comfortable range. But as soon as you're feeling any kind of tension or any kind of weird feeling in your body, consult YouTube, consult your educators, consult somebody, because you should never be tense behind the drum.